So would it make sense in a perfect world, knowing now what I know about like the Peruvian government and culture, would it ever make sense for them to institute a sort of label similar to the Champagne region of France, where you cannot call it Pisco if it is made outside of this region?
They're not smart enough, Nick.
If you want to really take it far back, the origin of this animosity between the two countries comes from the War of the Pacific in the 1800s. So Chile was at war with our neighbors and allies, Bolivia, who at the time had a coast.
Southern border.
A southern border. Basically, Bolivia split Peru from Chile, so Peru was not bordering Chile at the time. Chile went to war with Bolivia. As Bolivia's ally, Peru had to step in and help. The combo of Peru and Bolivia lost that war. And one of the byproducts of that war was Bolivia losing their coastline and becoming completely landlocked. Bolivians, of course, have animosity toward the Chileans for that, but also Peruvians do too. But then to add insult to injury, we had this product that we felt that we introduced to the world, really. We were calling it Pisco because we literally have a port called Pisco. Chile started distilling their wine, calling it Pisco. So they started thinking about it, well, why don't we rename this town where most of the production is happening, which was called La Unión at the time, the Union. In the 40s, they renamed that town to Pisco so that they felt like they could create this denomination of origin so that we can now call our product Pisco because we now have a town called Pisco also. So as Peruvians, you just kind of look at it and like, why are you doing this, you know? So I think that just made things worse. Each country has gone and sought out their own denominations of origin. Peru's was granted in 1991, and the U.S. recognizes it. However, they also recognize the Chilean one. So if you walk into a liquor store down the street, you'll see a Peruvian Pisco and a Chilean Pisco. TTB just requires you to say Pisco de Peru or Pisco de Chile, or Peruvian Pisco or Peruvian Chile. As long as you distinguish between one of those two, you're okay. But you take that, there are other countries. There's something like 80 countries in the world that exclusively recognize the Peru denomination of origin. So Chilean Pisco can't make it in. If it gets in, they have to call it something different.
Okay.
On the flip side, there are also, I'm using round numbers here, I think it's like 30 to 40 countries that only recognize the Chilean Pisco. So both of these countries are constantly fighting in countries all around the world to make sure that their product is being recognized. It's not like, cognac or tequila, like no other country swooped in and tried to do the exact same thing. So, I don't know how Peru could have fought that off at the beginning. I'm sure there's something they could have done to do better, but now it's kind of like we are where we are.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was saying at the beginning, rather than trying to bicker over who makes it what, let's educate about the differences. Super high level, what are the differences? Completely different grapes, like different grape classes. So that's a starting point. Mm-hmm. Secondly, Chilean Pisco can be double, triple, quadruple distilled. The more you distill something, the more it essentially becomes vodka. Yeah. Okay, Peruvian Pisco is only single distilled by law. Chilean Pisco can be aged. Peruvian Pisco cannot be aged. So Peruvian Pisco is always going to be clear. You're never going to see a dark colored Peruvian Pisco. Chilean Pisco, if you see it dark, it means it's been aged in some sort of barrel for a long period of time.
It means leave.
Yeah.
And the key distinction to make is aged versus rested, because Peruvian Pisco by law has to be rested at least 3 months. We rested ours for a year. Okay. And the distinction is that rested means it's in neutral containers.
Right. It's not going to be like absorbing any flavors, like
exactly.
being in an oak barrel or something like that.
Exactly. So it can be glass, can be copper, can be stainless steel. And those are really the key differences. So you can end up with a completely different product at the end of the day, and yet they're both still called Pisco, and it's just kind of confusing, I think, to the consumers.